A champion in life. You hear me? Yeah. Welcome to the Extra Yard. I'm your host for this evening, Royal A. Shepherd. Now I know you guys are accustomed to me hosting the post game show and not the Dolphins show because I don't know as much about the Dolphins to be able to competently host the show. And I'm usually joined by a cast of characters to include Kachin Chisholm, Juan Cardona, and Michael Christian. But since I'm just not coming back to the network from my hiatus, they decided to take a hiatus in my place. And so, today with me on the Extra Yard, I have Jacob, a.k.a. Fans Dynasty. How you doing today, Jacob?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fan-fucking-tastic, Jacob. And, of course, we have the OG to add some experience and some credibility to this program, Alfredo Arteaga. How you doing today, OG?
Fine, I guess.
So since we got these guys here, I'm changing the name of the show to Half a Yard Per Carry. That's what you guys are watching today because we are only half as good as 3 yards per carry. So let's get right into this. The Dolphins are not going to the playoffs.
No. Last I checked, no.
Oh, okay.
Well, technically, there's always a chance. Maybe the Chargers charter flight crashes into a mountain or something like that. And they need to let somebody in. And the Dolphins, if they beat the Patriots, I guess they got to let them in, right? Like, they're the 8th seed, right?
Sure. That could be the one possibility. But
so just put your TV on CNN and just keep looking at the crown in the bottom. You know what I mean? Yeah. For breaking news for a plane crashing. And if no plane crashes until Sunday, you're screwed. You're not in the playoffs.
So we'll leave that to the imagination of all the people like Alfredo Arteaga wishing death on an NFL team. let's talk about so I've been gone for a minute, but I did see the Dolphins kind of lose that game in remarkable fashion, and I've seen an entire fan base turn instantly. And let's talk about the man of the hour. Tua Tagovailoa. We'll start with him because during this game I had seen people start to come around on his game, and after this game I immediately saw trade Tua. Blah, blah, blah. He's a bum. He's a scrub. All this shit. I thought it was a bit dramatic. Jacob, I'm going to throw this to you first. Am I alone? Are you on the bandwagon where you're ready to get rid of Tua and start fresh? Or, have you seen enough over the course of this season to warrant him getting an extended look at the QB position?
Well, for Dolphins Twitter and for Dolphins Instagram, from what I've seen, you're either on the Tua train or you're on the get rid of the Tua train and the Watson trade. For me, I'm sort of in the middle. I think there's some things from Tua that you can't excuse, and there's some that you can. What happened on Sunday was a mixture of bad weather, very cold weather, and a lot of offensive stagnation from the Miami Dolphins perspective. So I think that there's a lot for Tua to improve on the offseason. I know Alfredo tweeted that he has to get better in some of these things in order to have a leap next year. But I think right now Tua needs to get better in some of these areas. Yes, he had the most drops. Yes, he had the worst offensive line in football for pass protection. But I think Tua's got to mature in some of these areas for when we have to see him next year.
Yeah, so Jacob mentioned the bad weather game that they had. And I kind of gave a lot of different people credit for the way that the offense looked in that game. Or not credit, but shit. They all – offensive coordinators, no game plan preparing him for that type of weather. There are some physical limitations there with Tua that have to be acknowledged in terms of how his body plays into those types of games. But, OG, where did you place the majority of the blame on that game? Did you place the most on offensive game plan and lack of preparation? Because didn't Gesicki say that they weren't prepared at all for that?
Yeah. They asked Gesicki if they had 2 game plans, one for good weather and one for bad weather. And he said no, that they never prepared for bad weather, which kind of tells you everything you need to know. They went out there and they tried to stretch the field. They had some success early. They had some success late. But overall, they didn't have the right game plan. If I was going to put the blame, and you asked me to put the blame on somebody, man, it has to go on Tua. He played a bad game. And, the offensive line, for the most part, held up. I know they give up 4 sacks, but at least 2 of those were induced by Tua just taking sacks. But, he had problems holding on to the ball. It was a wet ball. It was a cold ball. You could tell that whenever he could manage to get a little bit of dry conditions, he could deliver a pass. But for the most part, like you can see the towel he was using was getting even muddier and muddier as the game went on. Then he dropped the ball in the fourth quarter. It was embarrassing. So it's, the blame has to go on him. Now he's talking about like he's going to start taking trips to Siberia and the North Pole, and I don't know what the hell he's planning on doing. Like, there's ways you're here in Miami, right? Like, there's ways you could practice throwing the ball in the rain or throwing a wet football. But now he's going to go, I guess, to Maryland or whatever to try to train on it.
You can just wet a football.
Yeah,
you can just put it in water.
But yeah, you talked about the timeline. Like, Jesus Christ, I was on it on Sunday, and my timeline was a dumpster fire. But some of the same people that were like, for 6 weeks saying, put respect on Tua's name, and this is like the next big thing, were all of a sudden saying, you know what, maybe Deshaun Watson didn't do that shit. So and I was like, wow, like this is like one game. I said this on the Dono show. I hate that I'm going to be proved prophetic, but they might get this guy out of here for going 14-7 and not 15-6.
So, and that's kind of what I wanted to lead into, because this is kind of like a perfect question. It says, who's the next QB that the Dolphins are going to run out of town? Like, you just named, like, in my opinion, probably one of Tua's most fair-minded supporters in terms of the way that he plays. But the Dolphins have done this. They've did this whole song and dance before. Like, you run quarterbacks out of town. Sometimes you may have held on to one a little bit too long, but you eventually run them out of town. Are they pulling the gun a little bit too early on Tua? Or are some of the problems that you just talked about, like, not fixable? And you should move on. Jacob, I throw that to you. Like, he did not look like he's starting quarterback on Sunday. Are those scary enough to stop you from moving forward with him?
Yeah, but let's just talk about like what Tannehill had to do on Sunday as well. I'm going to compare him a little bit to what Tannehill had to do, because on the Titans side of the football, Tannehill didn't really have to do much besides hand it off, and he had to make a couple of throws here and there. But the Titans' game plan was basically run the ball and short passes, and then have Miami just shoot themselves in the foot. I think Miami beat themselves rather than the Titans beating the Dolphins. So, I mean, I think for Tua, like, you got to have a better game plan for him. You got to have a better offense. I mean, the offensive line, sure, you don't have to blame the offensive line in that game. Tua had a bad game, but I think you have to get, as an offensive coordinator, you have to game plan better, because Mike Vrabel's offense performed much better, and they were much more composed than Tua's offense.
They were also able to generate a run game. Like, and that's something, like, people don't give it enough credit. Like, the Dolphins can't run the fucking ball, bro. Like, that's.
Although they ran it good in that game, and I was wondering,
is this Jesse Davis?
Yeah, it's Jesse Davis.
I've never seen him like looking at somebody. Like, he looks like intimidating right here. Like, but he doesn't look like that on the football field.
Like, I thought that, and the Dolphins ran the ball okay when they actually like wanted to do it. But I think that, if you watch that game, I think the footing was there to actually try to run the football, because you could tell that there was a footing issue. And when there's a footing issue, especially when it's wet, you could get those defensive tackles and those defensive ends, and you could get them moving. And you can start running slants. You can start running counters into them, and you could gain yards that way. So, just like the same way that snow and slippery conditions helps a passing offense, and you've seen it before, how passing offenses could light it up because cornerbacks don't know where the hell they're going, and the wide receivers do. When it's wet and muddy, sometimes your offensive line gets more traction because they know where they're going, and the defensive line does. Miami was completely unprepared for that. Their game plan was like if they were in a dome or something, and it was just sad to see them be so unprepared for the biggest game of the year.
Well, I think I want to be fair to them, because offensively they looked unprepared. Defensively, they looked really solid to me for the beginning of that game. Like, the defensive unit all year Like, yeah, they've had their mistakes, but for the most part, this defensive unit has been solid throughout the year. And I don't think that they're going to get the credit that they deserve for the job that they did this year because of the way that the season ended. So, Jacob, I want you to take a little bit of time because this is kind of like a funeral for the Dolphins. Like, this is more ceremonial than anything else. But I kind of want you to talk about the job that the defense did in that game in particular and the job that they've done overall this year.
Yeah, the defense really had them in that game for at least the first 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, it kind of got out of hand because there wasn't really any hope. There wasn't any momentum that got spurred by the offense. The defense overall this season was a roller coaster. The first half of the games, they were playing like we've never seen them before. They were playing terrible. And then we finally, the last half of the games, we've seen them play like they were playing last year. So it's been a roller coaster. I think whatever happened midway through the season really helped. I don't know who changed play calling or something, but they played so much better the second half of the season. But in terms of the offense, like Tua is like, I saw the one tweet where it's like if the defense held the opponents to 17 points or less, then Tua was like undefeated. And when they held him to more than or allowed him to score more than 17 points, he was like had a terrible record. So I think Tua definitely feeds off of that top tier defense. It's definitely a top tier defense in the league. Tua feeds off of that, and his wins have really, for the most part, come off of that elite defense.
Alfredo, what's been the most impressive unit of that defense to you this year? Like, or biggest surprise, I'd say.
Oh, biggest surprise is I didn't think that the defensive line was going to get this good this fast, but it's absolutely stacked. Like, you like everybody on there. Like, they don't have a bad player on that defensive line. Yeah. Like, who's their worst player? If their worst player is, we're not going to count the Jenkins and all the guys that they. Nah, Steelers is one of their better players. I guess the worst player is Adam Butler, and he's damn good too. Like, you really like everything they have on that defensive line. So if there's one unit that's really impressed, it's that one. Everybody's going to say that the defensive backfield, the secondary is stacked also. This is a stacked defense. Like, they have a lot of talent on defense, but part of the problem on the team is that they have so much talent on defense, and they're the exact opposite on offense. The offense has no talent. Like, the offense has a handful of guys. You have a young quarterback. You got Waddle. You got Parker whenever he decides he's going to show up. And then Gesicki like every other game. Well, what do you have on offense? You don't have much. So, they need a complete overhaul on offense.
That sounds like a pretty interesting question because, a lot of times when you have to fix one side, that means you have to sacrifice a little bit on the other side. So does that mean that you let Ogba go so that you can kind of invest that money in more help on offense?
Nah, I think Ogba is one of the guys that you have to keep, and then what you're sacrificing is a long-term deal for Gesicki. And then you're gonna have to try to, change out. Yeah, maybe franchise him and then change around, how you're gonna do offense. Maybe you're gonna go more wide receiver centric and spend your money there. But they have a ton of cap space, and in the out years, who you have to pay. Like, AVG's not gonna get too much money, okay? But Christian Wilkins will, okay? And that's a guy that he's a cornerstone of the defense. You got to look at the guys who on the out years you have to pay, and then you have to, allow for it. On offense, they're going to have to spend money like crazy. And I've been saying this on every podcast this week and every show I've been on. They got to segment the offense. They got to sit down with Brian Flores and then tell him, hey, Brian, you still have your whistle. You still run practices. You still run the team. You still call the timeouts. And you can still do the challenges. If you want, we're going to get you somebody to help you with, clock management. But other than that, you're still the head coach. But we're going to hire an offensive coach that's going to run the offensive side of the football. And you take care of the defense. And, it's not crazy because a lot of very successful teams run this way. The defending champions run this way. The Packers run this way. New Orleans has been run this way forever, ever since they got Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen has full autonomy on the defensive side of the ball, and Sean Payton is in charge of the offense.
Sean McVay. Sean McVay was another one that
Yeah,
did it.
Sean McVay is another guy who used to take care of the offense, and then he would hire a guy to just be on defense. Dolphins are going to have to do the same exact thing. They're
So
going to
we
have to get themselves an offensive coach.
So we
Just
have
take over that side of the ball.
I'm gonna see if I can understand what we're being told here. So this is the Miami Dolphins salary cap calculator. The Dolphins. This is the total amount of cap space that the Dolphins have for next year. $74 million. So
Right.
Jacob, I kind of want to throw this to you. We're talking about kind of being able to recoup the offense or being kind of able to retool it. Is it only like coaching that needs to be retooled? Is it players that talent on offense? Because Alfredo mentioned both. Which one takes the priority? Like, do you think it's coaching that they should start with, trying to improve first, or trying to improve the overall talent of the offense?
It's hard to choose because you don't know if this dual offensive coordinator play calling is going to be successful, if it has been successful, or if it was just because of the talent we've had on offense. I mean, you see Godsey in the up calling the plays, and when Tua throws like a 45-yard bomb, he turns to his other offensive coordinator. He's like, "Holy crap, did that just happen?" You need an offensive play caller who's confident. In terms of talent, you need an offensive line. No quarterback is going to succeed with the number 32 pass blocking offensive line. They've just been horrible this year. You keep maybe Robert Hunt, everyone else has to go.
Mass murderer Jesse Davis,
Liam Eichenberg. I mean, you keep Liam Eichenberg, but obviously some his position's not working out right now. I wasn't here for the Dan Marino years. I wasn't really around for that. But I could imagine
like you weren't around or you weren't alive.
I might have been alive, but I wasn't a fan yet. I probably was super young. Anyways, I could imagine that his offense was, if I was watching it back in the day, was like a Chiefs offense nowadays, a powerhouse offense. And that's what essentially I want Miami to end up having, is a superpower offense, like a Patrick Mahomes offense, like an Aaron Rodgers offense. And you don't do that by limiting your options and limiting your offensive line, your receivers, your running back. You got to get those positions in order for your offense to be semi-competent.
Just a follow-up, can you create that type of offense with Tua as your quarterback? Because the type of offense you're talking about has big, powerful arm guys like at the helm of it.
Right. And Tua is the death by a million cuts quarterback. He's not going to have that strong arm. But I think it's worth a shot because Chris Greer has not set up Tua with these types of privileges, these types of things. So if we could get these things, then we could see if Tua is the real deal and we could audition him. But I just don't think it's a very fair thing that we have here.
Yeah, and I think kind of like what it's bringing me to is kind of like, do you have time to wait for Tua to develop, like as you kind of put these pieces around him? If you have an already ready-made championship defense, do you have the time to wait on that timeline for Tua? I think it's an interesting topic of conversation, although I'm not as well versed in the needs. But I do kind of want to give you an opportunity to go on the coaching versus player debate, OG. Like, which one would you kind of focus on first? Would you focus on the coaching first and then building personnel, or would you build personnel and then just kind of like try and get a coach around that?
No, you gotta start with coaching. It has to be a complete 180 in direction. Look, you tried with Len Jean-Pierre and it just didn't work out. You tried to recreate the magic that you got with Gerald Alexander, and it just doesn't work on the offensive line. If you've watched football any amount of time, you kind of know what offensive line coaches look like. They're profane, they're old, they have a lot of experience. You know what I mean?
That midsection.
And they usually have like a resume. Like usually they've built good offensive lines. They've been with good offensive lines. They've been with good offensive linemen. Okay. Len Jean-Pierre he's a new guy. He should be an intern under his old boss, Tom Cable from Seattle. Like, that's a guy I'd love to get down here. He's one of the better offensive line coaches in the league. So that's a guy you could get down here and have Len Jean-Pierre learn under him.
Tom Cable was
CK,
the coach at Oakland for a little while, right? The head coach at
Yeah.
Oakland for a little while. Yeah, he was a pretty okay head coach to me too, as
Mhm.
well. So I'm sorry.
I don't know if he would want to do it, but that's kind of like what they should be going for, because that press conference this week that Lem Jean-Pierre had was absolutely embarrassing.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
So thank you. Give me just a
Well,
second, Jacob. Thank you to Unidentified Celebrity Review for the $5 dono. The man is consistent across all platforms, but we appreciate the money anyway. He said, "I know a bum when I see one. Tua is no bum." Hey, bro, you are the foremost expert in bums in the Miami sports market.
Hey,
So I'll let you do that.
here's the thing, man. Everybody else has laid out the like the game plan and how to look at a young quarterback. It's usually at 25 starts. This Sunday will be number 21, right? So somewhere around week 5 next year, we're going to start getting a pretty good idea of what Tua is. He has next year, and that's pretty much the way it's going to go. Will they let it get to next year? Maybe not. Maybe he stays on the team and they have a certain other guy as the quarterback in waiting as he finishes up with what is likely to be a suspension maybe next year, and then Tua maybe can earn the job or, maybe earn his way out of here in a trade. So, next year is it. Like there is no more as far as, time or opportunities. Like you're going to have to start seeing change up some of those things that have gone wrong this year, namely those untimely turnovers, the bad mechanics, better command of the offense this year.
Jacob, you were making a point before we kind of like cut you off with the dono. I wanted you to get to it.
Oh, I was going to say the video of Jean-Pierre, his press conference. I was just going to reiterate that was terrible. What I have to say is about Tua is if you switch and if you move on from Tua, I don't see any options in the offseason besides maybe one that you would want at the helm for the Miami Dolphins, because I just don't see any other quarterback besides maybe a Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers that could succeed under that offensive line at the moment. So I think it's only right if Miami fixes their major issues first, and then we could see sort of Tua's audition. I know fans are impatient. I'm impatient too. I wanted to see an 11-win season this year, and obviously it didn't work out.
The reality is you could have seen one though.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing that people are forgetting in this microcosm of missing out on the playoffs. Like that beginning of the season, that 1-7 stretch, there was a lot in there that could have turned out differently for Miami, where they pick up 1 or 2 wins in that 4-game losing streak, and you're talking about a completely different Miami Dolphins team right now. And that's it's easy to forget this late in the season because you have the disappointment of missing the playoffs and the way that they performed against the Tennessee Titans. But I don't know, man. On the Tua thing, I think Tua should be giving another year. I also believe that the only way that they should move on from him this season if they get some of the guys that you were mentioning, Jacob, which is one of those big names. If Russ, Aaron Rodgers, or Deshaun Watson, are here, then you move on from Tua. But if not, then fans shouldn't be disappointed that they have a young quarterback on the rise on their roster. And that's just kind of where I am with them.
Yeah, they win this Sunday, and it's going to be 10-6, 9-8, consecutive winning seasons, right? And they would have been 2 games out in 2 years total of making the playoffs both years. So then the question is, what's keeping them from winning those 2 games? Yeah, I see the question. Says the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Safe to say a better O-line gets us another 3. I don't know about 3, but it gets them 2. And if it gets them 2 and they win this Sunday, that's 11 wins. How can you not be happy with that, right?
Yeah, and then you're in the conversation for one of the top 3 seeds in the AFC. That's kind of that, and I think that's kind of what.
I do think you got to step back, though, right? We're talking about making the playoffs, and you know how teams, everybody says, "Oh, they're close, they're close, they're close, they're close." The Dolphins are this is the cliche is true now, right? The Dolphins are close. Like they're this close to being a perennial playoff team. But are they that close to winning a Super Bowl? No.
No.
And I think that's where they got to start shifting the focus. Make believe you made the playoffs these last 2 years, because trust me, it would have not made any difference. You would have lost in the first round probably. Okay? Because that offensive line, it would have gotten exposed against somebody with a good pass rush in the first round of the playoffs. Trust me when I tell you. So assume you made the playoffs. Work on trying to get to a Super Bowl. How do you do that? You got to revamp that offensive line. You got to change philosophy. You got to run the football.
I think this is interesting because the unidentified celebrity said 2 wins is a playoff team. But if you think about it, like if the Dolphins win this Sunday, 1 win this year and 1 win last year makes you a back-to-back playoff team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what Dolphins fans are losing. Like there has been progress made with this team. Like, yeah, they started 1-7 this year, but the way that they rebounded was phenomenal. They rebounded in phenomenal fashion, no matter how they won the games. And that defense is real. Like it's hard to deny. And then on top of that, the Dolphins had a really good rookie draft class. I want to dig into those 3 guys a little bit because we talk a lot of shit about Chris Greer and his blind spot with the offensive line. Mm-hmm. But the man hit on all 3 draft picks this year. Jacob, I don't know. Were you ever really like low on Chris Greer? And if you were, like, has this turned you around on him the way these 3 have panned out?
I was earlier in the season. I was low on Chris Greer. I was also low on Flores. I think there's ways that you could say Greer has been a bad GM, and there's ways that he's been a good GM or a great GM. And the stuff that you point to is the draft class with Phillips and Holland and Waddle. He really hit there. Moving forward, he's going to have to hit on the offensive line, not in the draft because we can't draft offensive line, but in the offseason. Then again, which leads me to my other point, the offseason, we've had a lot of L's in the offseason with Fuller and a bunch of other these players who didn't really perform up to the standard. And then you also have the fact that Luis likes to bring up when he's on here, the veteran leadership. There hasn't been any. McCourty basically won that award today by default because he was like one of the oldest players. And like the only oldest player on the team are like over, I want to say like 30. And that's what hurt Miami this year as well. They didn't have any veteran leadership. They got Jesse Davis and they got Jason McCourty, and that's about it.
OG?
Yeah, no, it's going to start. It has to start on the offensive line. Look, they got the cap space. Just buy the people. Like if you look at what they have. All right.
I'm sorry, but you just talked about purchasing people, and the first thing that came to my mind was slavery, bro. Like I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
Well, it is the NFL. You know what I mean? They have a draft. They have a combine. All right. Like have you ever seen the combine?
Facts.
Okay, yeah, have you ever seen the combine people, Royal?
Measuring people.
Everybody parading in their underwear back and forth. Everybody look at him like, oh, look at that guy.
That's right. That's right. He looks like he's fast.
Yeah.
I take him.
By the way, I've been around a lot of scouts. You know how scouts tell, and they do this in basketball too, right? You know how they tell if a guy could have in the future a lot of like soft tissue injuries, like hamstring injuries, muscle pulls, things of that nature. You know how they could tell that thing? No. By the size of the bubble, meaning size of their ass. If you talk to scouts, they will tell you it's the way your body is proportioned is almost always going to dictate your future injury history. So yeah, it's that's the way that the sport is set up. It's a physical sport, man.
That is fascinating.
It is, but it's the truth.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, the next time, look, go read some of those scout blogs all the time, and whenever you hear the word bubble, that's what they're talking about.
They talk about a player's ass.
Yeah,
you learn something new every day.
I'm telling you, bro. We're educating people here on half a yard per carry.
But look, man, it looks desperate on the offensive line, but maybe they could get by with Yeah, like you saw in the Dark Knight when the Joker broke a pool cue in half and just threw it down and said, "The
Made people
winner
fight over it.
comes with me." Do that with Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson at left guard. You know what I mean? Loser leave town, right? And winner gets the left guard spot. And you could get by at center. They've proven this year you could get by at center with Dieter, and you could find guys that could work in the system. Go get 2 tackles. Get a left tackle, get a right tackle. You could do that this offseason. It's not that hard to do. Just throw money at it. Like I said, buy somebody. How much do you need to run Armstead? Well, here it is. You know, you got to spend the money, or maybe even trade for it. You know, Kansas City had a dumpster fire of an offensive line last year. They went out and they filled 4 out of the 5 spots in the offseason. And they used trades and they used.
What'd you say, Jacob?
I was going to say they went to the Super Bowl with that dumpster fire O line, so that just goes to show you, like, I mean, even with their dumpster fire O line, they're able to get 1 game away from being Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, but remember that their line turned into a dumpster fire during the playoffs.
I think Sean A asked a good question. He said, "Can Armstead stay healthy?" That's the question.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? You know what I mean? You got to understand what free agency is, right? Like you're walking through a used car lot, all right?
Yeah.
Like anything you buy could be a disaster, or it could be the greatest car you ever drove. You know what I mean?
They got Will Fuller in free agency.
Exactly. Will Fuller was a Ferrari, and you saw it, and you're like, "Whoa!" I told Chris this, like me and Chris kind of got it like that. If I could buy a Ferrari for like $125K, I'd do it. I have no use for it, but I know I could buy a Ferrari for $125K and sell it for like $170, right?
Okay.
I'll just park it in front of my house, keep it clean, and then sell it for $170, make the profit, right? Will Fuller was a Ferrari that once you tried to sell it for $170, you looked at it and you're like, holy shit, the transmission's blown.
You didn't take him.
I just bought myself a fucking lemon. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you didn't take Will Fuller to the mechanic before you bought him.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is my best interpretation of the will of the mysterious super producer, and I'm guessing this is the. Oh, okay, I see Armstead's name on there. So this is the free agent class at left tackle for the upcoming offseason. So you have Cam Robinson, Teron Armstead, Dwayne Brown, Eric Fisher, Charles Leno Jr., Chris Hubert. All of those top names right there, those top 6 names, I'll take any of those over any lineman that you guys have. Leno signed a contract today.
That's an interesting. He had a nice season. He had a nice season this year. Cam Robinson is an interesting name, okay? Because Cam Robinson is a guy. If you look at right next to his name, he's 26 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
6'6", 320 pounds. He's the picture of what you want. Okay, durable guy. Had a great season this year. He's going to be available. Why is he available? He's an asshole. Okay.
I think you want that as an offensive lineman. Though. Like I like Tyler.
He's
Taylor
the guy. But there's a reason why he's going to make free agency at 26 years old, and they don't want him at a premium position after having a good season. The guy's not the greatest of teammates, and then he has some tape in his past that's not so good. So he's a gamble. You know, like the safest bet in that whole list right there is Eric Fisher, but he's an older guy. You know, but you could get him, you could plug him in at left tackle, problem solved.
Yeah, but I think the Dolphins are beyond the point where they need to be worried about the age of offensive linemen.
They gotta stop that stuff.
You tried young, that shit don't work. So you need to go get somebody who knows what the fuck.
They tried young on the offensive line and the coach. They went overboard with that stuff.
Yeah, let it go, bro. Just get some offensive linemen who not even gonna listen to the offensive line coach and just gonna go out there and block somebody for more than 2 seconds, and they'll be fine. I'm not very good at hosting Dolphin shows, so I run out of topics very quickly. Unlike the Heat, I can talk for hours, but here I'm running out of shit to say. So, Jacob.
Stupid.
You stupid. Jacob, you asked the panel a question this time, so you get the host for this segment of the show.
Let's see. I guess what I would ask is like out of the free agents, like who's your number one priority? I mean, I haven't really done the research on these guys, but like who do you go get and how much money do you spend on them?
Well, here's the thing. You spend whatever it takes. Okay, you have the cap space, you move it around. It's been proven in the NFL. All cap hell does not exist. Doesn't exist for anybody. Before the season, everybody's looking at the Saints saying, "Oh, they're gonna have to get rid of everybody. They're gonna have to trade Kamara." No, they didn't do any of that stuff. Okay, Saints kept everybody, including Teron Armstead. When everybody was saying, "Oh, they're gonna trade him," they're gonna trade a Ramczyk, the right tackle, because they can't afford him. Guess what? They paid him too. So all of that is nonsense. Okay, so you pay whatever it takes. I think that, in fact, I was told that they are going to go after a wide receiver, that they're going to replace, like what they did with Will Fuller this past offseason. That wasn't like a signing of opportunity. Like they thought they were going to get the Will Fuller that they saw in Houston last year, which was an elite wide receiver. They thought they were getting a
top 10.
A top 10 wide receiver, and they thought they were protecting themselves by, just giving him a 1-year deal. If he doesn't work out, he's gone at the end of the year. And if he does work out, then you could just tag him, and then it turns into like a 2-year, $20 million deal. And it's actually a pretty damn good deal, right? Problem is that, Will Fuller was Will Fuller, unfortunately. He played, what did he play, 50 snaps all season? So never played a snap with Tua. So it is what it is, So I think that they're going to seek to replace that. And if I had to bet, I would say DJ Shark is a guy that they would go after.
That's a good name. I think for me, number one priority would be to re-sign Agua, like just to kind of bring him back. And then after that, I'm throwing the checkbook at the asshole right tackle. Like, solve that.
Yeah.
So that you can see what you have. Like,
you got to go get 2 tackles for sure.
You got to go get 2 tackles. And so I don't care which ones you go get, solve that, and then make a definitive choice on what Tua is before the trade deadline of next season.
I saw Team Grant on that free agent list. He looked a little spicy there.
He's a Pro Bowler.
Stupid.
It ain't my fault that you ate it. All right. OG, you are the veteran here. You are probably the best host in this space. It's your turn to host. Ask us a question.
That's a good question. Somebody asked trade for Calvin Ridley. That's on the table.
Why is Calvin Ridley not playing? I understand his personal issues, but I think
I don't know.
That's what I need clarified first. Like, is he going to play football? If so, then I would
like he's I guess he's Macy's Will Fuller. You know what I mean? While Will Fuller is great value, Calvin Ridley. You know what I mean?
I think Calvin Ridley is a better talent.
No, for sure.
Yeah. You know what? Macy's he's Saks Fifth Avenue. Will Fuller. Okay, like Calvin Ridley's a hell of a player, man. But yeah, you're right. You're right, Royal. You need clarification, like what went on there. You know what I mean?
Like I need to know what happened there before I make a definitive decision.
Yeah, we keep getting asked Agba or Gesicki for the tag. Oh, that's Agba. You give Agba. No, you give Agba the bag, and Gesicki gets the tag. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because it won't be that expensive to tag Gesicki. To tag Agba is a disaster. Like it's like tagging a quarterback.
Right, paying a pass rusher. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Just give him the bag. Just give him what he wants. Give him a big fat contract. Trust me, it's gonna be heavy. It's gonna be big.
Alf, I see a question here. Who's your main target in the draft?
Well, in the draft, man, it has to be on the offense, man. They got to concentrate on the offense. They're gonna have a late first round pick wherever San Francisco ends up, maybe 20th, 21, 22, somewhere on there. Look, if you want to root for something this week and root against San Francisco making the playoffs, because if they don't make the playoffs, then they can't improve their pick anymore. So, man, it has to be on the offense. It has to be on the offensive side of the ball. If it's a center, if it's a tackle, if it's a wide receiver, but it has to be on the offensive side of the ball. There's just no doubt about that.
I think I'm good on them drafting tackles. Don't do that. Don't draft any
don't do that no more.
Yeah, center, I'm all for it. Go ahead, draft you one. I think they've shown that they can manufacture productive centers.
Like Pouncey, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had 3 of them this year. I want to say all of them were productive. Like some of them can't snap shotguns, but but overall they were able to get solid production out of them. The ones DJ Shark, $11.9 million.
That's right.
Yeah, sure.
I I don't have that right now, but you know, if you allow me to rob a bank, I'll go get it for him.
Yes, by all means. I
You
mean,
know, it ain't my money. You know what I mean?
no, sir.
But if he's gonna cost 11.9, like that's a gift. All right, give him 5 years and let's go.
They say Mike G's tag is 10.8,
which is also a dream.
Paying him $10.8 million.
Yeah, you're gonna piss him off. Like you might have to trade him after you do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, because he has visions of like 30 million guaranteed
these,
dancing in his head. You know,
somebody said this team would have turned Creed Humphreys into a tackle.
they would have played him at tight end or something.
4 catches, 47 yards all year.
Yeah, projected 4 years, 47 million for DJ Shark. That's a gift. Like, sign that now. Like, can we do it now? Like, you know, call Jacksonville.
Do they do tampering in the NFL?
No, like you know, they got to start sending like a bottle of champagne, a box of chocolates to his wife, all that. You know what I mean? Getting good already.
Sure.
DJ Shark will be a very, very nice signing. I like Chris Godwin, although you know he did just have that injury. You know that's a problem. Yeah. And you got to think, man, if he works out good in the offseason, somebody's gonna look at him and say, "Nah, that ain't no 47 4 years." Okay, that's heavy. That's 90 for like 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's big bag.
That's a Duncan Robinson contract.
Somebody said offensive line in free agency can't afford to swing and miss in the draft anymore. Draft a linebacker, wide receiver, or a running back. Sure. Like if you're gonna pay DJ Shark in the offseason, I don't think you need to draft a wide receiver, but I like the idea of drafting a linebacker or a running back. Let's explore that a little bit. Jacob, if you had to pick between those 2 positions in the draft, which one would you prioritize, a running back or a linebacker?
I mean, I'm a big fan of drafting wide receivers. It worked out with Waddle. I know Waddle's like an All-American. He was an All-American. He's an Alabama product. But you see these receivers on the team right now. Some of them are going on free agency. You see, you see Preston Williams, who was, you know, his outlook looked good, and then this season he came around. He couldn't catch a pass. He wasn't involved in the game plan. Will Fuller, obviously. Albert Wilson looked so good in training camp and then was terrible this season. So you have a lot of promising guys. Yeah, Albert Wilson. You have a lot of promising guys that came in here and you thought Tua would have a lot of people to throw to, and then reality check, you have Waddle the whole game and maybe Isaiah Ford here and there, maybe Devontae Parker, like Alfredo says, when he decides to play. So I think drafting a wide receiver, if we could not screw that up, would be really beneficial. And I think would really expand the offense.
So we're going to circle back around to the question, though. If you had to choose between linebacker and running back, which way you choosing? I'm
going running back. I'm sick and tired of not having a Ferrari-type running back. I'm sick and tired of passing up on – I mean, it turned out well. We got a good guy, but you see Najee – his success, you see Javonte's success. It hurts, man.
Yeah, OG, you taking linebacker or running back with that first pick for the Dolphins?
Yeah, I don't know if there's breaking news right now, but Markieff Morris just tweeted, "Ain't shit wild about it. It's a real injury. Imagine having a 300-pound sloppy fat boy run full speed and make direct contact with your spine. I'll be back soon, like I said."
Yeah, he said he would be back soon 3 weeks ago too. I don't believe shit he said.
Yeah, but anyways. Yeah, man, drafting a running back. We're gonna do this again. I've been doing this. For 3 years. I've liked this running back and that running back. And look, in all fairness to Eric Studesville, I keep saying this. All right, Eric Studesville worked out Jonathan Taylor private workout for 3 hours. Okay, he spoke to J.K. Dobbins for 2 hours at the combine, and then after he spoke to J.K. Dobbins refused to work out at the combine. Who knows if he told him you're our guy in the second round, right? So Eric Studesville has made some really good recommendations as far as running backs to this team. Remember, this is the guy that found Jay Ajayi in the 5th round, Lamar Miller in the 4th round, Kenyon Drake in the 3rd round. Okay, this guy knows about running backs. He can find running backs. Okay, I'm pretty sure he had a hand in finding and bringing Duke Johnson and Philip Lindsay on board. Okay. It's just the front office. They don't give a crap about running backs. I think they could trade for one. You know, like maybe Antonio Gibson becomes available once again, and they could do something there. You know, Christian McCaffrey, you got to think that his value has dropped to nothing. Like, can you get Christian McCaffrey for like a second and a fourth nowadays?
That would be amazing if the Dolphins could get that accomplished.
You know, Christian McCaffrey has played like how many games has he played in 2 years? It's like his value has to be in the toilet, right?
Because I think he got hurt earlier this year. He came back, and then like in the game that he played, got hurt again. Was out.
You know, so they're gonna have to. You're gonna have to get lucky too. Like there's no sure thing. All right, people get hurt, especially at running back, right? So they're gonna have to make a phone call. They're gonna have to be smart. They're gonna have to do something inspired, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, the Dolphins had a great defense, and we're talking about 2003. They decided, we're gonna go get a superstar running back, and they unloaded with I believe it was 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Ricky Williams. And it didn't make any difference, but they were fun to watch, right? They got better.
Yeah, the Dolphins sure were. That was probably like one of the golden eras in terms of my generation of Dolphins football, watching Ricky Williams absolutely destroy teams as the Dolphins still lost in spite of it. But no, so no love for another linebacker to help out the defense. Like I know Jerome.
I trust them.
Great,
look, I trust that. I
trust
this coaching staff, the defensive coaching staff, Brian Flores. I trust them to find somebody. Okay, trust me. Andrew Van Ginkel, when they brought him in, a lot of people looked at him as a special teams player. Look at him; he's kind of like a core player. Andrew Van Ginkel makes plays, man. Okay. Ricky was so good, man.
Yeah, I was thinking about more so like adding another sideline to sideline linebacker in the same vein of a Jerome Baker to kind of help with some of those responsibilities, because we saw at times this year they put it all on him, and it was like, all right, maybe this is a little bit too much for one man to handle alone.
Absolutely. Like if you can get somebody like that, man, even in free agency, like I don't know what's out there, you know what I mean? Maybe something shakes loose. Maybe somebody gets cut. Maybe Seattle decides, you know what, we're paying Bobby Wagner way too much money. I think it's time to go. And we could squeeze the last of Bobby Wagner's good football out of him. Yeah, let's do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you never know when a situation like that presents itself, and it could present itself to the Dolphins. But I trust Brian Flores and his defensive staff to figure that one out. Like, they seem to be aces every time they go out and look for a defensive player. Like, when do they miss? Even in free agency, they found Emmanuel Ogbah, they found Adam Butler, Eric Rowe. Like, they're pretty good at finding defensive players. Their problem is on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, guys, I think we did all right for ourselves today with our the usual cast of characters on here. So
shut the fuck up! I will laser.
So thank you guys in the comments. Any final words, Jacob? I'll let you get the final words of the show. Any last words before we get up out of here, bro?
Let's get a freaking offense.
You said upgrade the offense?
Let's get a freaking offense.
I got some last words. This Sunday, it doesn't matter, right? I think it does. Last year they were 10-6. You're trying to go 9-8. The Patriots are going to be playing hard. They want to win that game because they win that game, they get to avoid their opponent, which is namely the Buffalo Bills. Like, they don't want to play the Buffalo Bills because they play the Buffalo Bills the following week. They're going to get smoked. So, they get to essentially call their shot, get their own opponent. So they're going to be playing very hard. And trust me, they don't want to lose 4 out of the last 5 to Miami. Miami has a chance to go 4-2 in the division and sweep Bill Belichick.
Like I've said before, like Miami, whenever they have everything to lose, whenever they have nothing to lose, they play really good football. Whenever they have everything to gain, like against the Titans, they collapse and they crumble. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and beat the Patriots on Sunday.
Although this week, if you've seen their pressers, man, like, Jesus Christ, like, this team is suicidal. Like, I don't know. Did you guys see? Somebody has to talk to Tua, like, man, fix your hair or something. Like, don't go out there on a presser looking like that. That's what he looked like.
Tua was in that bag. I legit thought our producer was going to cut you off in true, like, the extra yard fashion, like, with the exit to the show. But they let you finish. So thank you guys in the comments as always for joining us. Thank you to my guy, the OG Alfredo Arteaga, and Finn's Dynasty, Jacob, for joining me on here. You guys have a great evening, and hopefully the rest of them will come back, and we'll see you next time. Play the video, secret producer. That's not the video.